Testing, testing.
All good.
Yay. Did I see Mr. McDonald's online? We had some dirty dirt to discuss or something.
I was gonna say soil and fireworks.
Yeah, it's Ian's life. What a wonderful place to be, right?
Yeah, gosh,
Welcome to my world.
Everybody said that bylaw work and stuff would be just so chill.
Video's live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting of July 14th, 2021. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize that we are holding these meetings on the traditional unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. And if it pleases the board, I'd like to just read a brief statement before we call to order. Our entire regional district wishes to express our sadness and grief with Penelakut Tribe's recent announcement of the discovery of more than 160 unmarked graves at the site of the Cooper Island Residential School. We offer our condolences and support to Penelakut Tribe and all First Nations communities and survivors who continue to endure the impacts of the residential school system in Canada. We cannot begin to know the pain and trauma that so many have suffered, but we continue to offer our unconditional acknowledgement, support, and compassion to First Nations neighbors today and into the future, and commit to reconciling the past truths, discrimination, and racial injustices that have been cast upon the First Nations of our region and of our country. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. Before we begin, I would like to just, before we move on to the approval of the agenda, I would like to just add one more item under report of the chair, and that would just be a letter to the Ministry of Education regarding the Cowichan Secondary School project. And Ms. Legault, do we have any other changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
Okay, thank you. So with that change, I'd ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Is that moved by Councillor, or sorry, you had a question, Director Marsh?
Well, I just wondered, I would hate for people to get the feeling that as more and more of these discoveries happen, we stop doing the moments of silence. And these are our closest neighbors. Some of us are very good friends with people that went to that school. And I would just ask if the board would agree to have, if not 160 seconds of silence, at least a minute.
If there's no objections to the board, I think Director Martian, thank you for that. I think 160 seconds of silence. I know we do have an agenda tonight, but this takes precedence over our business, I believe. If it's agreeable to the board and there's no objections, I think that would be fitting if we take 160 seconds, and I'll track them here just to have a moment of silence and recognition for the discoveries at the former Cooper Island Residential School site. So if I don't see any objections, we'll start that 160 seconds of silence now. Thank you. Thank you all for that. And thank you, Director Marsh, for bringing that thought forward. And I did look and I saw a lot of contemplation and somber thought, and I think that that's appropriate. And thank you again, Director Marsh.
Thank you for, Mr. Chair, for allowing that. Can I just say one more thing?
Go ahead.
Reconciliation Canada, the Reconciliation Commission in Canada is having, and they have been now for 3 weeks, on Tuesdays at 6 and Saturdays at 6. If you go and join their Facebook page, you can see their Zoom where Chief Robert Joseph and usually a couple of his daughters and granddaughters and some other First Nations people really amazingly attempt to bring us Juanitan people in, which always blows me away because we should be doing that. So just to let people know, because I brought it up at council the other day and a lot of people didn't know about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with the addition to the agenda, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor, or sorry, I'll get this straight in a second. Just had council last night. Moved by Director Sebring, seconded by Director Staples. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item M1 is adoption of the regular board meeting minutes of June 23rd, 2021.
If there's no errors or omissions, a motion to adopt those minutes. Moved by Director Wilson, seconded by Director Salmon. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
No business arising from the minutes and no participants for public input period, and no delegations. So that takes us to report of the chair.
Thank you. So I'm going to just vary the order here and take up this first item that I added this evening, and that's a letter to the Ministry of Education regarding the new Cowichan Secondary School project. I did send a draft motion to Ms. Legault, and it's really quite simple. And following on North Cowichan, thank you for your leadership on that letter to the minister. And having spoken with the school board chair and school district staff, they're supportive of us sending a letter from the Cowichan Valley Regional District as well, imploring the ministry to ensure that they take the highest standards possible in the energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emissions of the new Cowichan Secondary School. I also committed to the chair of the school board, Ms. Pillsbury, that I would just have an open conversation with her and how we can assist them in their push to continue to make the school more energy efficient and lower greenhouse gas emissions. So the motion that I had sent to Ms. Legault, I'll just pull up here, and I hope that you can support it. And without getting too deep into the details during the meeting and making a long meeting longer, the motion that I sent to Ms. Legault was a little bit open so that I can work with our staff of how we can add our own flavor at the CVRD to that letter. And the motion that I would recommend would be that the chair write a letter on behalf of the CVRD board to implore the Ministry of Education to ensure the highest possible energy efficiency and lowest greenhouse gas emissions in the construction of the new Cowichan Secondary School in an effort to hit our local, regional, provincial, and federal emissions targets in the face of climate change. If that's acceptable to the board, I'd ask for a motion to move it. Is that a motion, Director Marsh? Okay, Director Marsh.
So I think that this is clearly what you meant, but it didn't come clearly across to me that the finished product would emit as low as possible emissions, not just in the building of it. Is that what you meant?
Yes, in the actual building itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll move that.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Director Salmon. Any further discussion? Director Kuhn.
Wouldn't the Ministry of Education try to do that anyway? I can't see a point of us as a regional district saying, okay, we want this school really efficient. What are we trying to prove? That we are going to be better than a ministry, that we are going to stand out as the district to have the tightest regulations with regard to school building? Or I don't understand the whole gist of this whole thing.
Well, I can give you a bit of an update right now. The school's energy efficiency envelope is set at 69%. The school board has been pushing throughout the process to get that to a higher level of efficiency. It reduces operating costs as well as impacts climate change. There are still plans in the school plan, unlike the hospital, to use things like natural gas for heating. So there is some belief that there is room to improve the energy efficiency envelope of the finished product. In discussions with the school board chair, they didn't have any challenge with sending a letter of support for their own efforts, and that was already done by North Cowichan. And after talking with Miss Pillsbury, I felt that it was something we could easily do to help advocate for whatever additional measures can be incorporated into the project to make it more energy efficient. Follow up, Director Kuhn.
Yes, wouldn't that open up a whole kind of worms? Wouldn't we then have to be sure that whatever money we're spending on improvements of efficiency actually pays off in the long run? Is there any, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, well, we've got to have the best insulation, we've got to have the best windows, best of this. Financially, it might not be a way ahead. So I'm just questioning this whole thing, because it's easy for us to say, oh, well, we want the best of everything. And here yet at the same time, we're complaining that, we're always over budget and we're this and the taxpayers. And so anyway, I'm just bringing that out.
Thank you. I appreciate that perspective. I have a feeling we're going to have a discussion that would take longer than me to write the letter and send it to the minister. Thank you, Director Kuhn. Director Marsh.
I just wanted to say 35 years ago, when I first became a trustee at the school district, the high school was old and we wanted to replace it then. And so this is a building that's probably going to be standing well past 2050. And I understand that Cowichan Place, I think it's called, was meant to be as green and passive in terms of not using fossil fuels as possible. And VIU has set a good example. They have a green roof. And I think that we would want to advocate for what our school boards would like. And I can tell you, if you don't know, school boards can't set their own budget. So they have to go by what they're given. And it never hurts to ask, because as Chair Stone said, in the long run, even if it's only 20 years, they're going to by far save taxes by saving on heating and lighting costs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would just say, hopefully we don't need to discuss it much further and I can call the question. But again, this is a letter to the ministry as an advocacy piece, and it will always be up to them to make the decisions of where that return on investment is from a financial perspective. Is there any further discussion? Director Morrison.
Just quickly on procedure, is there a urgency or timeliness on this? It
Yes.
hasn't been our practice. Okay, fair enough. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed? No one opposed, motion carries. All right, the next item is the discussion of 10-minute recess prior to question period, and I'm hopefully going to shorten this discussion. We're very shortly going to return to, hopefully, after our break in August, return to in-person meetings. So although I loathe the 10-minute break, I'm not sure trying to change the policy in the interim before we return to in-person meetings makes much sense. We have a small handful of public meetings between now and hopefully when we're together again in person. But I'll leave it open to the directors to decide whether we need to make this change to the policy now or whether we can discuss it if necessary after we return to in-person meetings. Director Wilson.
Yeah, you put it fairly succinctly there, Mr. Chair. There's really no point in changing things the way they are. I do honestly hope for a return to in-person meetings, and this 10-minute break, yes, it's a bit of a pain sometimes, but to be quite honest, it's worked well. Let's leave it as it is.
Any further discussion on this topic? All right, we're boogieing right along. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On to correspondence. Item C1, correspondence from the City of Victoria regarding the Help the Cities Lead campaign, and this is for direction.
Thank you, Ms. Legault. I will turn to the directors. I believe Director Nicholson wanted to speak on this. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Thank you. I think I would like to make a motion, which I have sent around to everyone, which is that the board formally endorse the Help Cities Lead campaign intended to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by buildings. And secondly, to write a letter to the following provincial ministers voicing support for the 5 policies that are detailed in the initiative. Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister of Energy Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, Minister of Finance, and the Attorney General and Minister responsible for housing. So the Help Cities Lead campaign is really an advocacy campaign. They've done a lot of really solid policy work, and I think that it is something that we should really support and get on board with. And I think advocacy is one of the things we need to do more of on important issues like this that are beyond our region's ability to address individually.
Thank you. So I'll take the first part as the motion. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Director Marsh seconds. Discussion. I'll go to Director Martman and then Director Wilson.
Sorry, I have to get used to going to that mute button. Thank you, Chair. Through to staff, it'd be interesting to know how this fits into the strategic plan. If someone could reply to that.
Letter of support, how would that fit into the strategic plan?
It's the endorsement.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm just bringing up my strategic plan that I keep on my laptop. And I mean, I think there's probably a number of areas. I mean, we're committed to reducing our greenhouse gases. You know, this is simply an advocacy piece as well. And so I would see that it would be completely aligned with our strategic plan in many areas. Without going through all the detail, we have 8 strategic objective areas here. If you give me a minute, I can go through and give you the exact alignment.
That's fine. Yeah. Sorry.
While you do that, I will say that I just forwarded another announcement, not an announcement, but a reminder from the federal government that they are supporting retrofits and construction of new municipal buildings and public space buildings to meet a much higher level of energy efficiency than is currently the standard. But I've got the strategic plan up here, but if you've got a few of the points directly out of the strategic plan, Mr. Crothers, you're welcome to share them.
Yeah, I mean, basically your strategic objective number 3 is to promote climate action initiatives, reduce our own greenhouse gas emissions, and protect our communities from the adverse impacts of climate change. It's a fairly comprehensive strategic objective that this would fit under.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director Martman?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. I've got Director Wilson, Marsh, and then Morrison, I believe. Did I miss anyone? Put your hand up, please. Director Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty much of a no-brainer, this one. As Director Nicholson and Mr. Carruthers have pointed out, this is an advocacy piece only. It's nothing that we will get at the moment directly involved in, so I see no problem with this one at all.
Thank you. Director Marsh and then Morrison.
I'm okay. I can pass. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Morrison?
Thank you. And just, I'm supportive of the advocacy part, but there's one question, and I don't know who I would pose it to. It's in regards to the second point of mandatory home energy labeling, and it's one of unintended consequences, and wondering if this is a specific to new home builds, or is it are we aware of its existing housing stock? I see this being a pretty big blow to affordable housing stock if there's a mandatory upgrading of existing housing stock. I would see that in my areas specifically, but does anyone have any additional information on that?
I can take a crack at it. I don't know if somebody on staff can speak to it, and I'll come to Director Marsh next. But the what I understood was that it was obviously on new construction, but there may be like I know we had an energy audit done, and it might be something where an energy audit can provide a rating for an existing home. But I don't think it's about requiring them to upgrade just to be able to report their efficiency, but I don't know if someone on staff can assist. I'll go to you, Director Marsh, next. I don't see any assistance from staff there, so if you have a, oh,
So
just
I
a
can,
moment, please, Director Marsh. Director Morrison, are you okay for now? Okay, Director Marsh.
sorry about that. I'm just trying not to prolong the meeting. Yeah, Help Cities Lead is an information campaign, and it's actually started by the Climate Caucus, which goes all across the whole country. And this particular one, number 2, is all it requires is builders to do what they're going to do anyway. You know, they know what performance level they're building at. That's just part of you know what they have to meet the whatever you call it, the code in the province they're in and in the region they're in. And so if they're going to go above and beyond the code, you know, or do the code, they just need to put it on the service panel, whatever energy ratings they meet.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Moving on, Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On to committee and commission reports. Item CR1 is the report and recommendations of the Regional Services Committee meeting of June 23rd, 2021.
To you, Director Salmon.
Thank you. So this is the report and recommendation of the June 23rd Regional Services Committee meeting. There's one recommendation there that I would like to move.
You caught me off guard. That was so fast. Moved by Director Salmon, seconded by Director Wilson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
That is my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Salmon. Moving on, Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item CR2 is the report and recommendations of the Special Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of July 7th.
Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Special Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of July 7th, I'd like to move 1 through 5 because I believe that 6 is wanting to be pulled and Director Nicholson wanted to speak to it. So I move 1 through 5 right now.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Kuhn. Any discussion on those? Director Sebring.
Again, I'm assuming these are all sort of part and parcel of some policy initiative. We're rescinding a bunch of policies which we're going to replace with different policies, but not attending the Electoral Area Services Committee. I honestly don't know what the heck I'm voting on here. Can somebody give me a Reader's Digest 30 seconds of background, and also for folks who might be watching and don't know what we're doing here?
Thank you. Through to staff or the committee chair, I don't know if you can help illuminate us, or if Ms. Churl, for a member of staff, can help us out.
Maybe Ms. Churl can. It was to rescind to. Go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Churl. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the policies that staff have requested that the board rescind are either redundant or contain a number of errors, and in most cases are being updated.
Thank you. Is that good enough, Director Sebring? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on those? That's 1 through 5. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Back to you, Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 6, it's the cannabis bylaw 4349. I turn to Director Nicholson that wanted to speak more about it.
Director Nicholson. Thank you.
Thank you. I we were dealing with this, actually, we were dealing with it in the morning, and then halfway through this item, we had to pause for another meeting, and then we came back to it quite late in the day. And I am feeling a little uncomfortable and would like to have further discussion about it. In particular, we didn't seem to get down to the CVRD cannabis regulation bylaw enforcement policy being rescinded, and I am not clear on that policy as it's written. And so I would like to refer it back to the EASC for further discussion.
So that's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Director Salmon. Discussion. Director Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought that actually, yeah, there was a long discussion and it was broken up, but I did think actually that a lot of points were discussed, a lot of points did come out, and we can send this back and discuss it some more if the board so desires. But to be quite honest, I'm not sure that I see the point, because there were a lot of discussions going on there at the time.
Thank you. So it'll be up to the pleasure of the board to refer it back. I'll go to Director Marsh next, and then back to Director Nicholson.
We have kind of a practice at North Cowichan that if any of us are not really comfortable with moving forward, we will revisit something normally out of courtesy. So I will support this motion that Director Nicholson has made.
Thank you. Director Nicholson.
Yeah, I don't, thank you. I don't intend to I don't want to prolong this discussion unnecessarily, but it was quite a long, complicated piece. And I think that there was a few issues that were raised that I don't think there was good closure on. And I also have questions about this enforcement policy. So I would really appreciate it being referred back to EASC.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Director Martman.
Thank you. I don't have any problems with having it referred back, but I am interested in, through the staff, if there's any time considerations for this.
Through to staff, I believe Ms. Troll, possibly. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, the delay will not have a significant impact on staff work programs, so that would be acceptable from our perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. This is to refer items 6, 1 through 5 back to the EAS committee for further discussion. All those in favor? And opposed? Director Wilson, Morrison, Kuhn, opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, and we'll move on. Back to you, Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you. Electoral area directors only for 7. I move 7 and 8 of the special electoral area services.
Move seconded by Director Kuhn. Discussion. EAS directors only. Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Sorry, Director Nicholson, I'm assuming you weren't opposed. It was just a little delayed. Okay, no. Okay, none opposed. Motion carries. And that concludes your first report, but I think we're coming right back to you, Director Yanni DiNardo. Ms.
Yes.
Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. CR3 is report and recommendations of the regular Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of July 7th.
Ms. Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you. I'd like to move 1 through 7, please.
Seconded by Director Smith. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
And then
Oh, sorry,
I'd
back to Director Yanni DiNardo.
yeah, electoral area directors only, 8 through 13, but I'm pulling 13. I think Director Martman has a different resolution. So I move 8 to 12.
Seconded by Director Morrison. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, this is electoral area directors only. All those in favor? And opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Director Yanni DiNardo.
I turn to Director Martman.
Director Martman.
A resolution for 13, I believe.
Director Martman.
Right. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Yanni Leonardo. I got it right, maybe. So the reason I've asked this to be pulled is that this really is a critical importance to Area H, and over the number of years this file has been going for a number of years, and I recognize there's a need for the community to have a chance to ask questions to both staff and the applicant, and that the results of that community or public meeting should come back to the EASC. So I'm looking to, I've crafted a motion, I've sent that around, but I'm also, looking for procedurally whether that's the best way to bring it to the board or to have this referred back to the EASC, and I can bring the motion up there. So I'm looking for some direction on that, whether that's legislative services or the chair on the best process.
I'd have to go to Ms. Legault. When we talked before, I said that I thought maybe she could help you work this all out. But Ms. Legault, I don't know if you have a recommendation based on Director Martman's and the community's concerns.
Director Martman has had the opportunity to discuss this with Land Use Services staff and are aware. So if the board is comfortable moving ahead with the revised resolution as was circulated earlier today, then I see no problem with moving forward. However, if you think more discussion is required, it can certainly be sent back to Electoral Area Services as well.
Thank you.
I just,
Sorry, who was that speaking? Or did
it was me, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, Director.
I was just thinking we have the resolution. If that resolution could be read, it has gone through the department and we could vote on it.
Okay. It looks like Director Wilson has a question, and then I'll go back to Director Martman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did read through that, and I did send a friendly amendment to Director Martman for his consideration. I'm not sure whether he's seen it there or not, and I'm just wondering if he's seen that resolution amendment and whether it would be proper for me or to bring that that amendment at this moment.
So I think it would be Director Martman has the opportunity to make the motion. He can include that feedback that you gave him in his motion, then no amendment would be required. If he makes the motion without the amendment, it's your right to propose the amendment if you wish, if his motion is moved and seconded. Is that okay? So I'm going to go to Director Martman, and maybe you can inform the rest of your board colleagues whether you've incorporated Director Wilson's feedback or not.
Thank you, Chair. And the short answer is yes. The long answer is I went through staff as well to get their feedback on it. So the staff felt that either way, it would still be part of what they would produce from a covenant, but they're comfortable with having that direction as well. So, so the motion I would like to make, if this is the appropriate time, is that there's three parts to it. One, that upon public health guidance authorizing indoor gatherings of more than 100 people, a public information meeting be held subject to the applicants agreeing in writing to the registration of a revised covenant for application number 03H16RS bracket PID 008903603, in which the defined areas of the lands are to be used in compliance with the works and compel compliance with the maintenance plan that has been prepared for the drainage and runoff control works that have been installed. Sorry, just making sure I got this. And are important for groundwater protection, including regular groundwater monitoring and reporting. And this is a piece that was additional, and that analysis of results be freely available to members of the public through every available local and provincial government avenues. 2, that the residents of Electoral Area H be notified of the public information meeting via Canada Post and notices in the Ladysmith Chronicle, Take 5, and the Nanaimo News Bulletin. And 3, that CVRD staff provide the Electoral Area Services Committee with a report summarizing the questions and comments recorded at the public information meeting.
That's seconded by Director Morrison. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is, I believe, for electoral area directors only. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Motion carries.
That
Thank
is
you,
my
Dir-
report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Yanni DiNardo, and thank you, Director Martman. Director Kuhn.
Mr. Chairman, would you give me an opportunity, please, to compliment staff? I had a conversation with a consultant planner that is working in my area on a project, and she has been working with staff on several projects in the past. And she was very impressed with our staff. She said she had the best experiences of any regional district, and she's dealt with other regional districts. And she says she likes to deal with our staff because they know what they're doing. I want to bring that out because our staff has been clobbered quite often. And staff generally don't get very much complimented, and neither do we as area directors, as a matter of fact. So when you hear something good from somebody, I'd like to spread it around. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
And a virtual clap going around. It was almost a wave on my screen, a virtual clap. So there you go. Thank you, Director Kuhn. So Ms. Legault, I believe we're moving on to staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item SR1 is a staff report from Economic Development Division on a budget amendment, and the recommendation proposed is that the 2021 budget for Function 121 Economic Development be amended by increasing general grant funding by $29,832, increasing transfer from operating reserve by $12,103, and increasing wages, benefits, and other expenses by $41,930.
Thank you. Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Marsh. Discussion. Director Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Increasing wages and benefits and other expenses. I think this has come up before. Was this an extra staff member for the ECDev department?
Yeah, through the BC Recovery Grant Program administered by ICE-T.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item SR2 is a staff report from the Manager of Human Resources on the exempt staff salary survey.
Thank you. Do we have a report, or we just have staff here for questions? Or, sorry, an introduction, or do we just have staff here for questions? Okay, I'm guessing we just have, oh, Ms. Oh,
Yeah,
there you are, Ms. Mohan. Sorry, you moved over on me. I didn't see you there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I can just give a brief introduction to this report. The board has been hearing from Human Resources over the first half of the year about some of the challenges we're having with recruitment and retention in our organization. One of the things I did was take a look at how we administer exempt staff salaries, because that was one factor of many factors that affect recruitment and retention, that we're in a competitive labor market, and that a number of our staff have reported in their exit interviews that they have gone to other jobs that have higher salaries. There's a number of different resolutions that govern how exempt staff salaries are administered in our organization. And some of them are kind of big items to chew off and revise, but some of them are simple and could help our situation. And this is one of them. So we typically do a salary survey every 3 years. We did the last one in 2019 in advance of the 2020 budget. The next one wouldn't actually be conducted until next year, which means it wouldn't be available. The information wouldn't be available for consideration until the following budget year. So that's 2 years away before sort of implementing any changes, which seems to me to be too long to be responsive to labor market conditions around salary competitiveness. So one of the things I'm recommending is that we advance the exercise of doing a salary survey to this year. We still have time to get that done before the end of the year, which means the information would be available for the board's consideration, coincident with the budget process for 2022.
Thank you for that, and I'll leave it to the directors for a motion or for discussion. Director Morrison.
Move the staff recommendation.
That's seconded by Director Nicholson. Discussion. Sorry,
Actually, I wasn't ready. Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't ready to second it. I wanted to ask a question.
Okay, I did see, I believe it's seconded by Director Sebring. But we can go to discussion on the motion. Director Nicholson, you get to go first. And then Director Marsh.
Thank you. Well, my question was to Ms. Mohan was whether we, in 2019, we did not apparently go along with a adjustment based on the benchmark. So I'm wondering if it would be more cost effective to make an adjustment based on the 2019 one and do the survey the following year.
Ms. Mohan.
Yes, through the chair to Director Nicholson, that is one approach. So the concern that I have with that approach is that the 2019 salary survey is now, that information is quite dated. So changes in the labor market that have happened since 2019 have been a bit dramatic in some cases because of things like COVID-19 and the effect that's had on the labor market in terms of retirement demographics and competitiveness. So it is certainly one approach, and it would be helpful approach because the recommendation was for a small adjustment, so we could do that. But my preference is to be as current as possible with the information.
Thank you, Ms. Mohan. And Director Marsh.
Yes, I think that I wanted to compliment Ms. Mohan for coming out ahead on this, and for all the reasons in her report, but most particularly the one that would be communicating to those exempt staff, basically, that we value them and we want to do right by them. We want to keep them. And I think that Director Kuhn just gave us a good reason why we would want to do that, because the public has been complimenting. So I am in favor of the motion.
Thank you. I don't have any further speakers on my list. Director McGonigal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think it's important that we have the most up-to-date information moving forward, given that it will return to the board for consideration and possible endorsement. And all this is getting the comparators of these already confirmed municipalities that we have utilized in the past and see where we do sit. So I don't feel that there's anything wrong with receiving the information and debating at a future meeting.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item SR3 is a staff report from Inspections and Enforcement regarding a fireworks permit for Ladysmith Days.
Thank you. We do have a recommendation. Ms. Legault, would you like to read the recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That a fireworks discharge permit for an event in connection with Ladysmith Days on August 1st, 2021 on a barge about 300 meters away from the shoreline of Transfer Beach Park be denied.
So I'm gonna, sorry, I know Director Yanni DiNardo is hot to move this one. I will look for a seconder and then I will fight to the death to try and overturn this. So seconded by Director Wilson. Would you want to speak to it first? Go ahead, Lori. I'll try and get the last word. Go ahead, Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you so much. It has been a pet peeve of mine, but I love fireworks. I'm not against fireworks. But I do believe that it has been, it's once again gotten carried away. But this is a critical year that we need to set an example for the fires that have happened. Well, not only that, we've also had, I believe there was someone that was killed recently. It was in the States. It was a sports guy that the fireworks backfired on him or something. But this is something that I noticed even when the Ladysmith Days for the light up, the air quality, the birds that were flying from the different buildings that I noticed too, like the wildlife besides the animals and domestic animals, farm animals. And I think there are opportunities to look at different types of fireworks, the silent fireworks, I mean, when it's not fire season. And there is opportunities, but we always stick to, you know, what we know and the same old. So I will be I will be voting for denial on the basis of safety and responsibility as us from CBRD demanding this from the rest of the community. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Wilson, then Kuhn, and then I've got myself on the list. I'll go Director Sebring, then myself, Director Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And much as I would love to be able to vote for this, because I know how passionate you are about it, I cannot. I live in a rural community, and the damage to the livestock and to the bird population, as Director Yana Donato has pointed out, is immense. Our dogs alone are terrified. But let's forget about the creatures which are affected. Let's talk about what the situation we're in right now. We're in a drought situation, and I know it's going to take place 300 yards offshore, but that's no reason. And you know, next year maybe, but right now I can't support this. Or rather, I will support the denial of this one. And I apologize for doing it, but I'm sure you understand the reasons.
Yeah, and give me all the opportunity to overcome your objections. But Director Kuhn next, and then Director Sebring.
Didn't the CVRD buy that island in that area? How far is it away from that island? I'm concerned about our land there.
Further away than it would be from the Ladysmith shoreline. I appreciate that, though. Minimum 300 meters from any shoreline, but further away from Butte Island than it would be from the transfer beach. Is that it for you, Director Kuhn? I can go to Director Sebring. Director Sebring.
Chair Stone, I'm going to support you on this one. This is not fireworks being set off in somebody's backyard. This is not fireworks being set off around a bunch of trees. This is fireworks being managed by somebody who has a pyrotechnics license. This is an event where the Ladysmith Fire Rescue will be on standby with an engine on shore. RCMP and RCMP Search and Rescue will also be on the water. This thing is properly supervised. I honest to God, I don't see a fire hazard when you're setting fireworks off over a bay where the stuff lands in the water. It astounds me that we're even having this discussion. This one, to me, makes patent sense. If any fireworks permit should go ahead, this one is. And I'm not a fireworks guy, and we've had the discussion at the North Cowichan table. We're tightening up our restrictions, but those restrictions are not for something set off on a barge 300 meters offshore in a bunch of water. So that's my perspective. So, Chair Stone, I'll be voting with you no matter how this thing turns out. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Marsh, and then Director Yanni DiNardo for second round, unless there's other first round speakers. Director Martman and Salmon before Director Yanni DiNardo. So Director Marsh, Martman, and Salmon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have years and years of fond memories with my babies and then my toddlers and then my older children on the beach at Ladysmith watching the fireworks on the barge. However, I do agree with the effect, no matter, I know it's not going to cause I doubt it would cause a fire, but I think that given the global heating, it's time that humanity quit having these kinds of things for their entertainment. Imagine it just sends out a message. People aren't going to go, oh, well, it's okay. Some people aren't going to go, oh, well, it's okay because they did it. I'm not even saying it right. I just can't. I feel terrible because I have so many fond memories, but I think this is one of the changes that humanity has to make. And so there'll be a generation of children that will enjoy whatever other fantastic creative thing that the town of Ladysmith comes up with to make that culmination on the Saturday night.
Thank you. Director Martman and then Salmon.
That's the right button. Sorry, and I thought you wanted to speak, Chair. I don't want to take your.
No, I'll speak last.
Okay, so when I read this, I thought first that this was a provincial item that got deferred to the CVRD, and it was around wildfires. As much as as a farmer and having issues with animals and fireworks, I thought this was really focused on a fire hazard. And you know, coming from emergency services, when things go wrong, they usually go wrong in, we call it the sort of the Swiss cheese syndrome, where you have to line up slices of Swiss cheese to get the hole through all of them for something really to go wrong. And as much as putting a barge 300 meters offshore, then you start to realize that, well, what happens if there's a major event that the fire department has to go to and it can't be there? So there's the first hole. The second hole, perhaps the wind comes up. Third hole, the barge isn't secured right. The fourth hole, damn it, that firework went in the wrong place. You know, these this is what we see as emergency services. And so then you put on top of it, we just had 40-degree weather. You walk outside and things aren't just dry, they're crunching dry. What it takes to start a spark right now is incredible. And then I listened to the wildfire service talking about how we have actually created as humans real problems with the amount for interface fires and the amount of debris that we have allowed to build up around our communities. And so you start looking at your forests or your around your around your areas, and you realize that nature would have normally had a wildfire go through there and burnt a lot of this underground stuff off, but it's all there. So there's another piece of Swiss cheese lining up where you go, I've got the tinder there. And so I looked at this and I went like, damn, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Perhaps the wildfire service should have just dealt with this to start with, but I think they've put it back to us. And these are not the days. And I think with climate change, we're going to find more and more of these things are just a hazard. And I do know, speaking of the neighbors around me that will shoot off fireworks without permits, that that they look towards, well, Town of Ladysmith is doing this, City of Nanaimo is doing it. Like, I can do it. Why not? So, sorry, I just have to speak in favor of the denial.
Thank you. And I do want to remark that it was only because we had a bylaw that the wildfire service did not provide an exemption for this event based on the plan that was provided by the association. Director Salmon.
Yeah, thank you. So here in Mill Bay, we have the annual Brentwood Regatta every year that has had until COVID at least fireworks on a barge out in Mill Bay. And every year I get complaints, and particularly around dogs and people not knowing and their dogs being very freaked out. So I really have a hard time agreeing with most of the other opponents of this. I'm going to have a hard time supporting this. So sorry, Chair Stone, but I think the time is coming to have alternative light shows or something.
Well, I would say if this vote goes ahead, it would be a requirement to ban fireworks permanently within the region. But I'll go to Director Yanni DiNardo.
I just want to reiterate once again, and speaking to Director Salmons, that's done in the springtime with the songbirds in a very small area in Mill Bay. And the air quality, when the winter time one in Ladysmith that I went to one light up, I had a family member with a severe asthma attack afterwards. It funneled down the street, the smoke from it. There's just so many issues. Sorry, Director Sebring, I'm being a real I'm being a stickler with this one because we need to set the example. And I think that the example is that fireworks have had their day, and we need to set the example with the extreme heat that we're having. And we are the leaders of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't have any other speakers. I'll just take a moment to say that I disagree vociferously with most of what I've heard here today. Had it not been for the CVRD bylaw, we would have received the exemption from Wildfire Service because of the safety plan that's been in place. Over 40 years of providing these fireworks every BC day without incident because of the safety plans that have been in place, supported by our first responders, and there are many people, many hundreds, if not thousands of people that come every year. This is our community celebration. And I have a question through to staff. If Ladysmith adopts its own fireworks bylaws, are we able to supersede the CVRD bylaw?
Mr. Chair, I don't know that I can answer that question on the fly. I would have to do some investigation on that.
Okay. Well, we'll work as hard and fast as we can to find out that answer at our municipal table. Director Sebring.
I would just say that we have our own fireworks regulations, and therefore we are not subject to the CVRD ones at North Gowerton. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, but I think that's your best shot, Chair Stone.
Thank you very much. It'll be on our council agenda Tuesday. Any further discussion? Director McGonigal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the concerns voiced by those who have spoken on the negative side. I will have to align with my colleague, Mr. Sebring, and given that the plan is would have been endorsed by Minister of Forest and Environment, I will have to support this event going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Have I missed anyone on the speakers list? So this is a motion to deny the fireworks permit for the town of Ladysmith, or actually the Celebration Society BC Day, Ladysmith Day celebration. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Director Sebring, McGonigal, and Chair Stone opposed. The motion carries. And so is everybody feeling okay? We've been at it for an hour. Do we want to break before we go, or can we just go through the bylaws and rapid fire? We got a 10-minute break coming up after bylaws anyway. And I appreciate, and with good humor, I hope you understand, I have to fight the good fight. And that doesn't mean the fight's over, but for today, it is. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On to bylaws. Item B1 is CVRD bylaw 4380, soil deposit bylaw 2021 for adoption.
I turned my mic off. Apologies. Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Wilson. Any discussion? Seeing none. Director Wilson.
No, sorry, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm in favour of this because my chicken wings and pizza have just arrived.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item B2, CVRD bylaw 4390, municipal ticket information authorization amendment schedule changes bylaw 2021 for first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Smith, seconded by Director Yanni DiNardo. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. CVRD bylaw 4390, municipal ticket information authorization amendment schedule changes bylaw 2021 for adoption.
Moved by Director Coons, seconded by Director Smith. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to EA Directors only. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item BEA1, CVRD bylaw 4387, electoral area B, Shawnigan Lake zoning amendment bylaw 2021 for third reading.
Moved by Director Salmon, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. CVRD bylaw 4387, electoral area B, Shawnigan Lake zoning amendment bylaw 2021 for adoption.
Moved by Director Salmon, seconded by Director Yanni DiNardo. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item BEA2, CVRD bylaw 4388, electoral area F, Cowichan Lake South, Scotts Falls zoning amendment bylaw 2021 for third reading.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Kuhn. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
CVRD bylaw 4388, electoral area F, Cowichan Lake South, Scotts Falls zoning amendment bylaw 2021 for adoption.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Kuhn. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item BEA3, CVRD bylaw 4389, electoral area I, Yubo Mead Creek zoning amendment bylaw for third reading.
Moved by Director Kuhn, seconded by Director Morrison. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. CVRD bylaw 4389, electoral area I, Yubo Mead Creek zoning amendment bylaw 2021 for adoption.
Moved by Director Kuhn, seconded by Director Yanni DiNardo. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
The next item is CVRD bylaw 4359, zoning amendment bylaw 2020 to rescind second reading.
Moved by Director Yanni DiNardo, seconded by Director Nicholson. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. BEA4, Ms. Legault.
CVRD bylaw 4359, zoning amendment bylaw 2020 for second reading as amended.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Yanni DiNardo. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you all for that. Ms. Legault, I believe that takes us to our 10-minute break for question period. We'll take a 10-minute recess and be back at 7:44. Thank you all very much.
Video's live.
Thank you, Ms. Legault. Do we have anyone for question period this evening?
We do not.
Okay, well, we ought to rest. So that I believe, Ms. Legault, that moves us to adjournment. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Director Kuhn, seconded by Director Salmon. Thank you all for a good meeting and for your good humor. We will see you all very soon. Have a good night.
Night.
Enjoy evening.
Hey,
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.